All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Unslaved. Happy New Year. I hope you had a nice holiday break. And we're back here cracking out some really good content on Unslaved. We're happy to be back. Michael, great to see you as always. Hope you've been well. And let's open up. I think you have an announcement to make, and then we'll start this discussion today. We're talking about collectivism, individualism, and probably so much more, but take it away.
Oh, yeah, thanks a lot. And yeah, it was just a small announcement about some new findings in the world. I've made a blog post and I hope that people will watch it. Members can go to the free section in my personal blog there, and it's on revisions to Darwinism, of all things. We've had several guests on here, including Michael Cremo. We've gone as deep as we possibly could. But I wanted to emphasize this blog post because there's really monumental changes taking place in the realm of DNA and the realm of genetics in general. The Genome Project, big fail, right? Billions of dollars spent. So it left everything in the air. But uh, those who've been following this and even checking into epigenetics with the Bruce Liptons, please continue to follow that because revolutionary changes have been taking place. A book I'll recommend along with this is Danny Vendamini's book, The Second Evolution. All right, Second Evolution. Excellent book, easy to read, takes you through the whole history of Darwinism. He's pro-Darwinian, so you just have to bite down on that. It's a very good book, as are all his books. So he takes you up to what's called neo-Darwinism, which is already fairly spurious term, since so many of the original Darwinian ideas were thrown aside. So Darwinism itself has split at least down the middle, and neo-Darwinism is not necessarily to be connected to the original Darwinism. And a lot of these changes have gone on behind the veil of academia, and the public's not meant to know about it. But I like to keep up with it, and it's just that very, very recently, new discoveries in epigenetics, and epi just means above the gene. So it's almost like a coding that affects what happens below on the genome. So all of our genetics, whether inherited or not inherited, and that's what a big controversy, how much is inherited, how much isn't. Yeah, but epigenetics has been the study, special school of study of, that which is sort of the control mechanism, like every map has a key. Well, the epigenetics is the key to what happens below, right, in the genes. And so many revolutionary changes have now been discovered. And guess what? It's like we've said on Unslaved, I've said since the beginning of my career, lo and behold, every new discovery harkens back to something that was discarded in the previous epoch that should never have been discarded. In this case, it's Lamarckism, which Darwin himself was into and the world was into. Sigmund Freud was into it. And the blog post I made involves Sigmund Freud's theories. This is all back in fashion now, all of a sudden. That which had been consigned to the flames, consigned to the back shelves, the epigenetics are now literally saying, and this is the top people from the top institutes of genetics are now saying, these epigeneticists are saying, yes, Lamarck and Darwin need to come together, 50-50. I don't know how many people listening right now know what a revolution that is. And that's just the beginning, because once you do plug Lamarck back in, the story of inheritance becomes very, very important. Now, why this is all very, very important is to do with what we've been doing on Enslaved and I've done in the premium and had as a central message, and that is the story of trauma. And we're not going to go into it here, but you now find out that these epigeneticists are factoring in trauma, not trauma of millions of years as the normal classical Darwinian pattern may entertain. Oh, well, of course, our planet's been hit by meteors and comets for millennia. There's been, earthquakes and volcanoes and geospheric changes, the likes of which nobody could even imagine back in the Jurassic or back in whenever. We've had this Pleistocene age with the ice ages. So they'll tell you that trauma has happened on our planet and to our ancestors, but it was millions of years ago. That's been scratched. The epigenetics are saying trauma experienced in a single lifetime by a single human being can be inherited by the next generation. Are we ready for any
Wow.
more slam dunks? Yeah.
That's incredible.
I couldn't believe ears. So Bandamini's book, This Evolution, and the blog post keep your eye on that. We may actually do a full podcast on it down the line. But right now, I want members to be aware of this. And if it's all new to you, get into it more through Danny's book and whatever, and keep up to speed, because there's discoveries being made in this age. Some of the astrologers would say, "Oh, well, there you go. We told you it was a Plutonic age and there's going to be a lot of revelations." Well, there are. And these are very important revelations because, of course, we know that if these epigeneticists continue doing their research, they're probably going to come up slam a dunk against not just trauma, but the real cataclysms that your masters that we feature here, the Velikovskys, the Beaumonts, that type of person, actually, believed happened in ancient times and changed everything in our world. They're more than 50% along the road. So when they make their new discoveries, they can't hold on anymore to that burning rope bridge. They've tried, they've done their best. They want to hinterland people like Michael Cremo. They want you to forget about Immanuel Velikovsky. And the very few people who ever talked about ancient trauma, Ignatius Donnelly's and all of that. But my work has been, I've had muck thrown at me since the beginning. I know that a lot of intellectuals don't like it. Well, suck eggs now, mate, because, Tessarian's been proved right by putting trauma at the center of his work from the very beginning in the Atlantis book. It was a big risk to go out there. You could have been just completely ridiculed. I have been ridiculed, but now their own science, as I predicted would be the case, their own science is moving closer and closer and closer to these alternative theories. So couldn't help but, talk about it on the show here, and hopefully people will follow it up. Epigenetics is revolutionizing what we know, leaving almost so little of. They've already said, okay, 50%'s gone. Lamarck comes in as a 50%er, and must be. It's absolutely categorical that the two guys must be brought together again. But all those Lamarckians, of which Sigmund Freud would be a leading name, were scandalized. You can't find anything but criticisms of his Lamarckian ideas. And now that's all consigned to ashes. So it's okay. No, you're welcome back to the party. I mean, and if that's happening in that area of science, how many other, what do we got? What are we talking about? Anthropology, geology, right? There's, Shattering the Myths of Darwin by Richard Milton. Has anybody read that book? I mean, these guys were telling you years ago, and they were ridiculed. Top magazines ridiculed their books and ruined these people's career. But everything they've said has come true. Every single thing they said in those books came true, via their criticisms. Writer of the Observer magazine, one of the most prestigious magazines in the world. He's helping his young daughter do her homework in science, and he's reading all this absolute shash in her homework. Going, but this is not true. Why are they teaching you this in school? And that kicked him off and started him saying, I'm going to go and research all the curriculum in the textbooks. And finally, he ended up writing this masterpiece, Shattering the Myths of Darwinism. I've got it on my evolution hoax page on irishoriginsofcivilization.com. I'll put the link below, for people who are completely new to this. But a mighty sea change is taking place, one that everyone needs to know about and follow, even those who are not particularly into heavy duty science or whatever. So yeah, we can move on.
Wow, that is amazing. I did not know about that. I'm going to check it out. And yeah, we'll definitely post the links. It's been a subject we've been touching on for some time. And it's great to see that vindication. And it's always satisfying to see it come from within their own scientific institutions. And
Yeah.
as they're seeing it, like you predicted as well, that there was going to be a meltdown in all these different fields. And we're seeing it in the medical field. That's what I've been tracking. We're seeing it in so many different areas where people who had been pushed to the fringes, who'd been ridiculed or even censored, outright censored, are now being vindicated in this time. And it's all happening at the same time, which is really interesting. So yeah, it is quite the age of revealing after all.
You've got polyvagal theory, challenging everything we know about trauma and the parasympathetic system. Polyvagal. You've got German new medicine, revolution, bringing a lot of older stuff to bear, but also revolutionizing and the alternative patterns. You've got neuroscience, which is in a pickle worse than these geneticists.